In this scenario, we're going to take a look at how to set up a bi-directional integration in between ServiceNow and Workfront so your projects and tasks can run seamlessly. Now let's slip into Put It Forward and look at how the integration between ServiceNow and Workfront is set up. When an administrator logs in to Put It Forward, they get the bird's eye view of everything that happens to be configured in their environment, from an integration to a process to an automation to a predictive analytics or data mining scenario. We're going to be looking inside the ServiceNow and Workfront scenario today. It's not running at the moment, but we're going to activate it by the end of this session here. So let's click into it and see what we have. When we click into the actual integration, the first step is the process designer. Process designer is what describes the logical flow and or sequence of events and actions that have to happen within a process as it is integrated across one or more or multiple different systems themselves. In this case here, looking at ServiceNow and Workfront, you may have a sequence of steps that you may want to follow in your process that goes back and forth in between the systems depending on what the actual flow is. So you read these kind of top to bottom, left to right. You can run different sequences of them, create different branches. You can have different instances of ServiceNow running as well as Workfront running and integrated together and being managed through this process flow itself. And of course, you can create different versions of process trees and branches, et cetera, to work on changes that you may want to test, et cetera, before moving them into production. Let's move into Designer. So we just basically select one of these different sub buttons here. And when we go into that module, we're presented with the actual integration scenario. This is a pretty simple integration. We're going to build it up a little bit here to show you some of the possibility. First thing you do is you notice that there is two different areas to work in. On the left-hand side here is where you do the data mapping and add business transformation logic at the field level. And on the right-hand side is where you start to manipulate the data at the record level. So let's start here by first mapping last name to its destination. In this case, we've just got a few fields that are available based on permissions and objects, et cetera, that we're connecting with. So we're going to connect last name with last name, and that's as simple as that. That completes a data mapping in between the source and the destination. We want to add a function to that. That function may mean we want to add or look for a substring or a value that's in there, or search for something. Maybe we want to look for, someone's last name that begins with the letters ABC and ends and has a length of 10 characters or something to that effect. The point is that you can add as many of these different types of functions to the data itself as it's going through there, and add business rules associated with that. You can see there's an additional one that's already been set up here around concatenating first name with last name into the title field for whatever the business rule is that's associated with that. Now, you can add business rules and lookup values and transformation to the actual field and to the record itself. So very quickly here, we're just going to add a transformation to this. Now, transformations are many of them. There's, if this, then, and, or, at, types of logic, or switch fields, or skip records, or look for uniqueness, et cetera. We're going to start with a pretty simple one here, which is, some if this, then, that logic. Basically adds a transformation function to the actual record itself. So, if the record, has a certain value in it, maybe that value is arbitrarily number 10 is in there somewhere, then do something else with it, and so on. Now, that else could be adding another function to it. As we showed earlier, maybe add a date stamp to it, etc. Maybe add a date stamp and concatenate it into something else, and so on and so forth, right? The point is that you can add many different types of functions to the transformation logic as you go through here. Equally, you could add a lookup. Since this is first name, last name, maybe you want to go and enrich that data off of another data source. Maybe it's like a third party like org, or maybe you want to look at we're going to use the existing environment in this one here, and or use an internal data service that you may have, whether it's a master data management repository or something of those effects. The point is here is that you can add many different lookups, ways to enrich the data, change the process flow around the data itself, right at the element and at the record level as well. So that gets us back to essentially saving out the process flow as we've designed it here. And then we can move back into the platform manager. Platform manager now is ready to have this scenario activated. We just click the activation button here. We can select the frequency from real time to hourly, once a day, once a minute, once a week, every Tuesday at 3:30 a.m. in the morning if you choose to, depending on the scenario and the direction and so forth. So we just save this. Once we launch this, we can also add the parameter about, what's the next time that we want this to run at, or for it to be triggered. So if you want to have an integration be processed in the future state, it's very simple. Just pick the time in the future that you want, and then it'll run in real time since then. So that save, and that becomes now an active integration, and it will be on its way to executing the next time it's ready to go. Thank you for your time and attention.